In a classified NATO briefing room somewhere in Brussels, generals from 32 nations stared at the same slide on the screen. It wasn't about Russia's nuclear arsenal. It wasn't about China's hypersonic missiles. It was about this, a Swedish fighter jet, one that, according to sources inside the alliance, is being called the most disruptive aircraft in NATO's entire fleet. But here's the thing, Sweden only joined NATO 18 months ago. So why are the most powerful militaries on Earth suddenly rethinking their entire air strategy? Because of a plane that costs half what an F-35 does? And why does the answer to that question involve a decision made in a Stockholm boardroom back in 2016 that almost nobody noticed at the time? Stay with me, because what Sweden did with the Gripen is one of the most fascinating stories in modern military history. To understand why NATO is obsessed with the Gripen right now, you have to go back to where this story really starts. Not in a fancy aerospace factory, but in a problem. Sweden in the 1970s had a dilemma. That sounds almost comedic in hindsight. They needed a world-class fighter jet, but they were neutral. They couldn't buy American, they couldn't buy Soviet, and the British and French offerings didn't quite fit what they needed. So Sweden, a country of 10 million people, said something remarkable. We'll build our own. And against every prediction, against every defense analyst who called it a fantasy, they did. The JAS-39 Gripen first flew in 1988. It was fast, agile, and, crucially, cheap to operate compared to anything else in its class. But Sweden's neutrality meant they'd never tested it in the most important arena of all, real alliance warfare. That all changed on February 24, 2022. The day Russia invaded Ukraine, Sweden's strategic calculus didn't just shift, it shattered. Within months, public support for NATO membership, which had hovered below 50% for decades, rocketed past 70%. And by March 2024, Sweden was formally inside the alliance. But here's what most people missed. In all the headlines about historic membership and expanding NATO, Sweden didn't just bring its geography, it brought the Gripen E. And when NATO commanders actually sat down and looked at what the Gripen E could do, and more importantly, how it did it differently from everything else in the alliance, there was reportedly a moment of genuine surprise. Because Sweden had quietly been solving a problem that was keeping NATO's top air strategists awake at night. And the solution was hiding in plain sight. Let me show you exactly what I mean. NATO's air power in 2024 is, on paper, overwhelming. You've got American F-35s, British Typhoons, French Rafales, German Eurofighters, the combined air forces of 32 nations. So what's the problem? The problem is sustainment, and it's a bigger deal than almost any defense journalist talks about. The F-35 costs roughly $44,000 per flight hour to operate. The Eurofighter? Around $18,000. These are extraordinary machines. Fifth-generation stealth, sensor fusion, the works. But here's what happened. In Ukraine, that changed NATO's thinking forever. Military analysts watched in real time as a major air force, the Russian one, struggled to maintain sortie rates because of maintenance complexity, spare parts, and operational cost. Russia's Air Force, on paper, one of the strongest in the world, found itself unable to generate the number of combat missions it needed when it needed them. NATO commanders looked at that and then looked at their own sustainment budgets, and some of them got very quiet. Because here's the dirty secret of modern NATO air power. Most alliance members cannot actually afford to fly their own jets at wartime sortie rates. Studies suggest several NATO nations would exhaust their operational flying budgets within weeks of a high-intensity conflict. Not months, weeks. This is the problem the Gripen E was, almost accidentally, built to solve. The Gripen E's flight hour cost? Estimated at around $6,000 to $7,000. Think about that for a second. You could fly 6 Gripens for the same cost as one F-35 sortie. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because the Gripen E isn't just cheap. It's cheap, and it does something the F-35 fundamentally cannot. It operates from roads. Not airfields, not runways, roads. Sweden designed the Gripen from the ground up, with the assumption that in a real war with Russia, every major Swedish airbase would be destroyed within the first 48 hours. So the jet was engineered to operate from 800-meter sections of public highway, refueled and rearmed by a crew of 5 conscript soldiers in under 10 minutes. 5 people, 10 minutes. Back in the air. Compare that to the F-35, which requires a climate-controlled hangar, a team of specialized technicians, and a maintenance infrastructure so complex that the aircraft literally communicates its own maintenance needs back to Lockheed Martin via satellite. The F-35 is a masterpiece of modern engineering, but in a degraded, high-intensity war environment, the exact scenario NATO is now planning for, that complexity is a liability. And Sweden, because of 70 years of planning to fight alone in their own backyard, had already figured this out. Now, here's where the story takes a turn that even I didn't expect when I started researching this. Because the Gripen's road-basing capability isn't just tactically useful, it changes the entire strategic geometry of Northern Europe in a way that has Russian military planners genuinely worried. And I can prove that because of what Russia did next. Stick around. Before Sweden and Finland joined NATO, military analysts called the Baltic Sea a Russian lake in wartime. Russia's enclave at Kaliningrad, packed with S-400 missiles, Iskander ballistic missiles, and radar systems, could effectively threaten air and sea access to Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania within hours of a conflict. This was called the Baltic Gap, and it was NATO's single most terrifying vulnerability in Europe. Sweden's entry into the alliance didn't just plug that gap geographically, it demolished it. Suddenly, Sweden's air bases at Kalinga, Luleå, Uppsala, and yes, those highway strips scattered across Swedish forests, gave NATO a flanking position on Kaliningrad that hadn't existed before. But here's the twist. Kaliningrad's air defense bubble, that S-400 umbrella, was designed to threaten fixed airfields. The targeting algorithms, the pre-planned strike packages that Russia spent decades developing, they were built around a world where NATO fighters had to operate from large, easily identifiable bases. When you distribute an air force across hundreds of anonymous highway segments in a dense forest nation, that threat calculus breaks down almost entirely. One NATO analyst I came across described it this way. Sweden turned their entire country into an aircraft carrier that can't be sunk. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is all very clever, but Sweden only has about 60-something Gripen Es. That's not exactly a huge fleet. How much does it really matter? And this is where the story gets properly interesting. Because Sweden's Gripen isn't just Sweden's problem to solve anymore. Other NATO nations are watching very closely, and some of them are making phone calls to Saab. Here's something that got buried under bigger headlines. In the last 18 months, at least 4 NATO nations in Central and Eastern Europe have initiated formal evaluation processes for the Gripen E or its variants. These are countries with exactly the same strategic problem. Sweden spent decades solving. They're close to Russia. They have limited defense budgets, and they know that in a real war, their air bases would be targeted in the first wave. But there's an even bigger development that most Western media completely missed. The United States Air Force, yes, the U.S. Air Force, has been quietly studying Sweden's road-basing doctrine for potential application with lighter aircraft in the Indo-Pacific theater. Because the same logic that makes the Gripen useful in Northern Europe applies to a conflict over Taiwan or in the South China Sea, where Chinese missile systems are specifically designed to destroy the large fixed bases that American air power depends on. The Gripen isn't being evaluated as a replacement for the F-35. Nobody is saying that, but as a complement, a low-cost, high-availability, road-operable platform that can keep flying when the big jets can't. That conversation is happening at the highest levels. And Saab, a company that once wondered if it had a future in military aviation at all, is now in a position that nobody, seriously nobody, predicted a decade ago. They have a product that answers one of the most urgent questions in modern warfare. How do you keep air power alive when your enemy's entire strategy is to destroy air power before it can take off? Sweden already knew the answer. NATO is just now catching up. But here's the final piece of this story, the one that ties everything together. And it involves a decision that Sweden made about the Gripen's brain, its electronic warfare and sensor suite, That is arguably more important than any of the physical capabilities we've talked about. Because what Sweden put inside the Gripen E might be the biggest reason NATO can't stop talking about it. The Gripen E is equipped with the PS-05/A Mark IV Epoch ESA radar, one of the most advanced electronically scanned array radars on any fourth-generation aircraft anywhere in the world. What really matters is the electronic warfare suite, the NATO-compatible data links, and one specific design philosophy that Saab embedded into the aircraft's core architecture. Everything is upgradable in software. The Gripen E was designed from the start to receive software updates the way your smartphone does. New threats, new weapons, new mission profiles. They can be pushed to the entire fleet rapidly without the multi-year, multi-billion-dollar upgrade programs that plague aircraft like the F-35 or Eurofighter. This matters enormously in 2025 because the battlefield is changing faster than any traditional acquisition cycle can keep up with. Electronic warfare, AI-assisted targeting, drone swarm coordination. These aren't future capabilities anymore. They're current requirements. And the Gripen E's open architecture means Sweden can and does integrate new capabilities faster than almost any other NATO aircraft. There is a word that keeps coming up when NATO insiders talk about the Gripen, and it's not cheap, even though it is. It's not agile, even though it is. The word is relevant. In a conflict environment that's changing faster than procurement budgets can follow, the Gripen E is becoming more relevant with every passing month. And Sweden, the neutral nation that built a jet nobody asked for, solving a problem nobody else admitted to having, finds itself at the center of an alliance that is quietly, grudgingly, admiringly asking, how did they know? The Gripen story isn't finished, not even close. There are procurement decisions coming in the next 12 months that could determine whether this jet goes from a niched Scandinavian success story to the backbone of NATO's eastern flank air defense. If you want me to cover that, the bidding wars, the political deals, and the country that's about to make a decision that could reshape European air power, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Because that story, it's already started, and it might surprise you even more than this one.